On the edge of the world, where maps blurred and roads ended in brush and fog, lay the forgotten village of Delmere. The forest around it had grown wild and thick, so much so that even birds rarely crossed above it. Travelers avoided the area, not because of bandits or beasts, but because of the whispers. People spoke of lights seen deep between the trees, lights that didn't belong to man nor nature. It was said a lantern keeper lived there. Jasper Bellamy was not a brave man. He worked at the coastal ferry docks counting crates and scribbling numbers in ledger books. But he had recently lost something, someone, and that grief had left a hollow space in him. One night, with only a knapsack and a storm lantern, he boarded a northbound train and left behind everything he'd known. He didn't quite know where he was going, only that he'd heard of a place where the lost were sometimes found. When Jasper arrived at the edge of Delmere, he found no welcome. The trees stood like dark sentinels. The air was damp, clinging to his skin, and the dirt path forward looked as though it had never been touched by boot or wheel. A crow watched him from a crooked branch, unmoving. He entered the forest anyway. The first day passed in silence. By the time he made camp, the shadows were long, and the light from his lantern seemed swallowed by the gloom. As he tried to sleep, he thought he heard soft footsteps pacing around his camp, always just beyond the ring of light. When he rose to look, there was nothing there, only the trees. On the second day, he found the first lantern. It hung from a dead tree, its glass fogged and frame rusted, yet it burned with a steady, bluish flame. He reached for it, but as his fingers closed around the cold handle, he heard a voice not with his ears, but behind his eyes. Only one who carries sorrow may pass. Jasper dropped the lantern and stumbled back. The flame sputtered, flared, then extinguished. The forest grew colder. The air smelled faintly of salt and smoke. Still, he continued on. By the third night, he had stopped sleeping. The forest had begun to change. The trees seemed taller now, impossibly so, and the paths twisted back on themselves. The lights returned, small flickers in the dark, always just out of reach, and once, just once, he thought he saw a figure walking ahead of him. A tall figure in a dark coat, carrying a lantern with a fire so bright it painted the trees silver. He ran to follow but lost the trail. On the fourth morning, he woke beneath a tree marked with dozens of runes. He hadn't noticed carving it, but the handle of his knife was slick with sap. The air thrummed with unseen life. That night, when he lit his own lantern, it refused to burn. No matter how he struck the flint, it would not catch. But when he whispered her name, Elara, the flame sparked to life. She had been his sister, taken by the river one summer when they were young. He had always blamed himself. He had let go of her hand. The forest seemed to listen. On the fifth day, the lantern keeper came. He did not speak. He simply stood on the edge of the trail and watched. His coat was stitched with symbols, and beneath his wide-brimmed hat, his eyes gleamed like candle flames. Jasper stood frozen, unsure whether to approach or flee. But the keeper turned and walked into the woods, slow, deliberate, and Jasper followed. They walked until the sun fell, though he saw no sky. Eventually, they came to a hollow where the trees were shaped like arches, and hundreds of lanterns hung suspended from their branches, each burning a different color. The keeper gestured to one, and Jasper stepped close. Inside it, he saw her. Elara, not as she was, but as she might have been older, smiling, alive. She seemed to look at him through the glass, and he fell to his knees. The keeper placed a hand on his shoulder, and for the first time he spoke. "You may carry her, or you may carry forward." Jasper did not understand. "What does that mean?" The keeper's voice was like fire over snow. "To carry her is to remain. To carry forward is to change." Jasper looked back at the lantern. Her image was already fading. "I want to let her go," he whispered. The keeper nodded. With a wave of his hand, the lanterns dimmed. One by one, they faded into smoke until only Jasper's own lantern remained. Its light had turned golden. The keeper turned, his coat rustling like dry leaves. There are others who have lost. They seek the path but forget the flame. Walk with me. Jasper hesitated. I'm not like you. The keeper turned back once. You are now.